Welcome back to the 1% Show. If you're new here, tune in to hear me spin the yarns with authors, savants, and eccentric humans every week. I'm your Aussie host, Brandon Nankivell, and it's time to kick back and enjoy the show. Let's go. Do you find it difficult to find time to read? Well, I put together an online course that will teach you how to get twice as much value out of books by reading half as much. It will show you how to strategically select valuable books before you even invest time into reading them. This is something that speed reading courses don't teach you. It will show you whether you should be reading books, ebooks, or audiobooks. It will show you how to conquer your wandering mind, how to apply what you read so you can actually create real results, which is what reading is all about at the end of the day, and how to avoid wasting countless hours due to poor reading habits. It's a lifetime investment that will help you to extract more value from every single book you read from now on. To get started, head to elitereaderacademy.com. Again, that's elitereaderacademy.com. I'll see you there. Alright, to the listeners listening in, we've got Seth, otherwise known as Black White Guy in America, but Seth, I don't know, do you still want to go by that name or not?
You know, I'm fine with either. Black White Guy in America or Seth Alexander. You can find me either way.
All right, sweet ass, dude. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you've got 29,000 subscribers on YouTube. You've collaborated with our friend Rich from Improvement Pill, and you're a name that keeps popping up in the NoFap community. Is that right?
That is correct. I've been called the King of NoFap from time to time. So, yes.
Sure thing. So just so we can learn a little bit more about you, Seth, who are you and what is it that you do?
So I'm Seth, and essentially I'm just a regular guy who kind of stumbled upon this whole NoFap movement, so to speak. Back then it was called No PMO, and then NoFap kind of emerged from that. And it was around that time I discovered NoFap that I decided to start a YouTube channel. And that YouTube channel has kind of just acted at first as my just kind of documenting the stages that I will be going through, the changes I'll be experiencing with this whole NoFap journey. And the channel within itself started to evolve. I started to understand that NoFap was merely, to me, just the side effect of a shitty lifestyle. You know, it wasn't, my channel stopped becoming so much about NoFap, and it started becoming about, okay, what are the things surrounding the issue that are keeping you in that addiction? What other problems are you going through? And so I like to call my channel essentially a glorified accident, because I've just started, after the NoFap kind of died off on my channel, I started just kind of talking more about the things, like I said, that keep people stuck in these patterns, in these systems that they've kind of cultivated within themselves. And about a couple of years, and here I am still making videos, loving every moment of it.
Sweet as. So what does a typical day look like for you right now?
Right now, typical day, I'm a freelance wedding videographer, kind of. I'm a partner of my buddy's company. So I essentially will wake up, I will do my morning routine, which consists of stretching and then gym time. And then I will come back, take a cold shower, and then I'll start editing for the day. I typically kind of keep every day open for the most part, unless there's something I really need to get done. But I definitely like to my little morning routine, and then my nightly routine is kind of just unwinding, whether it be with something like Netflix or whether it be with a book, just kind of decompressing for the night. But yeah, my days are pretty streamlined, pretty typical, I'd say.
Sweet as. Well, let me just say you're in the right industry, very lucrative.
Oh yeah. I'm very fortunate for where I'm at right now. So I couldn't be happier doing what I do.
Awesome, man. So this is another question I like to ask my guests, and it's take us back to when you were 14 years old. What was life looking like?
Well, when I was 14, I would say in ninth grade, high school. the skinny kid in high school, getting picked on for being underweight. And if you're talking in terms of pornography and all that stuff, that's when I first, or at that age, is when I was starting to develop this nasty habit of pornography. So I remember it would start with, I guess I'll be graphic here. I mean, not discussing, but I remember I would look up, Pamela Anderson nude, and I would take Google images and print them out because we didn't really have high-speed internet pornography back then. It wasn't a thing quite yet. So I would take, little images and take them to my room and hide them under my mattress, and then, wait for the night's time to come, and then there I would go. And that kind of graduated over time, over the next few years, when LimeWire started becoming a thing, streaming or downloading videos from the internet. And I don't know if I answered the question, but it was that was the start of this whole descent into this bad addiction, I would say. But skinny kid in high school, kind of a loser, kind of didn't really fit in with many people. So that's who I was.
Yeah, man. Just mentioning LimeWire, that brings me back to some early days. I almost forgot that existed. Some old shit. But anyway, so how about when you came out of high school? What was life looking like for you then? Like, did you know what you wanted to do with your life, or what was the deal?
So after high school, I had my first real girlfriend, and I started attending community college. And I bring up the girlfriend because that was an important part of my life, which was we were super happy together. We were, happily skipping out on school just to spend time with each other, and everything was good. And for some reason, one day I kind of realized that I was 19 years old, whole big life ahead of me, and I'm probably not going to be with this girl in the next year or 2 years. I mean, I'm certainly not going to marry her. Mm-hmm. So that, I feel like, was the start of this mentality over time, which is to make, even if you're not doing something specific in life, make decisions. So my decisions were to break up with my girlfriend, who I really was head over heels about to the outside world. And then I made a decision to drop out of school because it didn't make sense to me. The same principles as far as why I was breaking up with my girlfriend, I applied to school. I said, well, what I want to do with my life. So why on earth would I subject myself to school when I'm just kind of doing nothing? I'm not going towards any certain direction. Mm-hmm. It's almost as if you're water with no bottom to it. You're just putting in all this time and effort, but it's not really going to get you anywhere. So I made the decision to drop out despite what everyone else was doing, because I feel like there's that whole sheep mentality where everyone does what everyone else is doing because no one else knows what to do. So dropped out at age 19 and started working. Experience. I believe at that time I'd left my glorious job from Burger King, and I got a job at Home Depot, and I was making $12 an hour, which at that time was more money than most people were making out of high school, because minimum wage, I think back then, was like $7 something. So here I was making $12.50 an hour. That job got kind of cumbersome. I ended up quitting that job, and my guns, I kept making decisions after I quit that job. So I had no direction, I had no purpose, I had no sense of direction, but I just decided to keep on going. And I told myself that know where you're going to go. It's okay to not have all the answers now, because, too many people pressure themselves into going to school. They pressure themselves into being in relationships. They pressure themselves for everything. And I don't want that pressurized timeline ruling my existence. So that was the next 8 to 9 years of my life has just been making decisions based on how I feel versus what society is going to tell me, and been to the experiences of life where you're going to go, but being optimistic and hopeful. Because I've actually talked about this before. I did a little video on it where I told myself, and I believe it even to this day, what job I was working. Okay, and I've worked some pretty crappy jobs. No matter what job I was working, there was something for me there. I was supposed to experience at that job that would get me to my next destination in life. And I truly believed it, and I still believe it to this day. And so it was that mentality. And, even though you're in this job that you hate, there's someone or something there that is going to get you out of it there. And that has held true up until this point in my life, to where I now do what I love doing for a living, making amazing money doing it. And I think it was that playfulness, that playfulness with life, that's kind of helped me to a place to where I live life on my own terms instead of the terms of society or the terms of, some crazy controlling girlfriend or anything like that. So that's been after college, it was just for me about being playful, having a playful attitude, and just saying yes, saying yes to stuff, getting myself into trouble, like not being so cautious. Is it the right decision? Is it the wrong decision? Just doing it and stop essentially being a bitch about it.
Sure thing. And did you say you've been on this self-development journey for about 8 or 9 years? Is that right?
Yeah, it's hard to say when exactly I kicked it off. I remember age 10 being fascinated with books about the brain. So if you want to get all technical about it, I'd say I started around 10 or 11. However, the actual journey, I guess we'll say it started when I was 21, because that's when I first ever heard about The Secret and the Law of Attraction. And although it was not as direct, it was still, I would say, some form of self-development, bettering my mentality. Think very negatively. And in fact, I remember I was working at a daycare, and a little girl, 3 years old, being so negative. And that's when I kind of had a wake-up call to change my attitude, my attitude from this negative mentality to a positive attitude. So be around age 20, 21.
And how old are you now?
I will be 30 in August, so 29 currently.
Yeah, sure. So pretty much throughout your 20s. Yeah, I just really want to affirm that, because I think, like, I'm 22, so still, like, I'm not saying 29 or whatever is not young, but I'm really just out of my teenage years and just come out of school. So at this age, I think there's a lot, especially like what you see in the internet these days, all over YouTube, Facebook. We're constantly bombarded with these people doing so well, and I think we fall into the comparison game where we're constantly being like, oh fuck, why don't I have that success now? And I fell into the same trap myself, where you look at people who are really successful, but when you really look behind the scenes, like, they've been at it for years, man. And we've just become a lot of us, really impatient, just no fucking patience. You've probably seen, like, Gary Vaynerchuk preach the same thing, but it's just crazy with what we see on Instagram, all these people living large, and we just forget that this shit takes time, bro.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We've developed this instant gratification mentality, and I feel bad, not for your generation per se. Well, most people in your generation, but then even the upcoming generation before you, or after you, excuse me, I feel bad for them, because they're not going to know the value of patience. They're just going to know instant this, fast food that. And even me, I was impatient part. But I think, this is not really addressing anything you've just said, but it just kind of came to mind. The reason why I don't think I was so impatient is because, like I said, I didn't have a goal in mind, and I didn't have any aspirations, which I think it can be good and bad. I think I get a lot of people, like, seriously, the most question that I get is, I don't know what to do with my life. And I'm like, that's okay. That is beautiful. Because look at the opposite end of the spectrum. You've got the sheep, who are just doing a job because that's what society told them to do.
Mm-hmm.
One of my friends yesterday, and I was explaining, she's 17, very young, and she's asking these questions now, like, what am I supposed to do? And I'm like, look, most people around you are they're gonna get married, they're gonna get a house, they're gonna get a car, they're gonna get this job. And they're not going to be able to back out of those things. Okay. You get a house, you've got this big payment, you've got a job that you need to pay for the house. You need the job to pay for the car. You've got this husband, and now you've got a kid on the way, 24, 25 or whatever. They can't back out of that. That is, I don't think people typically realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't rush yourself into something and just enjoy. And I think it taps into the whole, social media. You see other people doing things. Oh, it's like, oh, they know what they want to do with their life. But dude, I still don't know what I want to do with my life. And I love it. Nothing is planned.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is planned. I just, I'm going with it. I've got my financial goals that I've wanted to hit. And that's what That's what I allow to lead me. Mm-hmm. I want a certain level of financial comfort and stability. And that's all I've cared about. And I've cared about that and my freedom. Those are the two most important things. And so naturally, I've found something that fits within that context: freedom and financial stability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I told you at your age, I couldn't have told you at your age, oh, I want to be a wedding videographer. That would have added a lot of stress, a lot of impatience, and I probably would have given up because of the whole idea of you're trying to do something. Mm-hmm. So I think it's okay to accept, like, look. And I think that when you accept that, that gives you that lack of impatience that most people are experiencing. So.
Sure thing. I can relate with a lot of what you're saying, and especially just jumping back to like how you're working at Burger King, and then you quit that. Like I was the same. I was at McDonald's, pretty close. I quit that. Then I got a higher paying job. You went to Home Depot or whatever you said, and it was paying well, and same thing. I went to a winery that was paying super well, but nice. I ended up leaving that too, man, because I value freedom. I didn't know all the answers at the time, but what I'm doing right now, I'm super happy what I'm doing. And I've just instead of following my passion, there's sort of this thing in the self-development arena right now saying, maybe that's not the best advice because you can't follow your passion if you don't know what it is. Passion is cultivated over time. So what I do is just, for the listeners listening in, I've chosen to follow my curiosity. So whatever I think, I go, oh, that's interesting. Then I just let that lead me. So that's personally the way I choose to lead my life, and who knows what that will turn into. Like right now it's turned into this podcast. I just followed what I was curious about. I'm curious about NoFap, and I came across your channel, dude. I saw your collab with Improvement Pill, looked at your stuff, and I came across you a little while ago too, and I thought, hell yeah, let's hop on a chat. Like a year ago I wouldn't even thought I could reach out to you and have a conversation, but here I am. I just followed my curiosity. So that's just what I've did in my experience.
That's super important, man. And I think that's a mentality people should take on. Alleviate, take away the stress and follow the curiosity, and be okay with the fact that it could lead you into a wall, or it could lead you into a pit trap. I don't know what other bad situation you can think of, but it's okay. You can't expect to walk, as a child, as an infant, you can't expect to walk without falling for a few times. So hold on to that curiosity, hold on to that, I'm going to fall, but it's going to be okay. Yeah. So I totally support you. And I mean, look what you've done, look what you've done by your age, and look what I've done by my age. We have two different successes, and you and hopefully other young listeners, take what you're saying to heart, because there's no rush. There is no rush. Mm-hmm. The only rush that exists is a rush that you create within yourself, and that'll oftentimes lead you somewhere you want to be. So I tip my hat off to you, good sir.
Nice one. All right, man. Let's. This is great so far, and we haven't even got into the NoFap, which will probably be the central theme of this podcast. So, I'd love for you to give, for those who don't know, most people do who follow me, but for those who don't know, who are new here, we just want to know what NoFap is.
Yeah. So NoFap, I think it can be broken up into two different categories. For all intents and purposes, I will say that the blanket statement is that NoFap is the abstinence from pornography. And of course, that includes masturbation. So the whole idea is that you want to abstain from looking at pornography due to what it's now been found to do to the brain. And some guys will try to do hard mode, which is essentially complete abstinence from ejaculation and orgasm altogether. So it's a tool, if you want to call it that, but it's more importantly a lifestyle. I don't know, pornography, it comes very easy. You can get it on your phone, you can get it on your laptop, you can get it at school. I mean, not to be all graphic, but one time I even jerked it off in a car driving to work. That's how easily accessible it is. So it's a whole lifestyle change. More people have been catching on to it, which is amazing. Finding out how bad it is for you, for your life, and all that other stuff. So yeah, that's what NoFap's all about.
Sure thing. And I don't know if you've looked into the science and stuff, and because it is no question sort of a controversial topic, and there are a lot of skeptics out there. And I think it's reasonable because I think the biggest argument is that there's been no controlled studies where there's a control group to compare to. So the science we have is slightly lacking. So I'm just wondering what your viewpoint is, on that. Like, why pursue it if there isn't scientific backing?
Yeah, my stance has always been that we are our own scientific backing, because such scientific backing does not exist. So do you need, I mean, look, I don't like formalities. I really don't. I couldn't care less if a psychologist or a neuroscientist said that NoFap was good or bad. I don't care what they say. Because to me, on a personal level, they can't, like, I don't care that you have a white lab coat and all that other shit. All I care about is that I've done this. I know that it changed me, and that's my proof. And then we've got our own control studies. We've got websites like yourbrainonporn.com. Thousands of guys who have done the same thing and are all experiencing similar and varying positive benefits. Need science when you've got yourself to kind of experiment. And that's the beauty of it. With anything in life, you don't have to have science to back it up, because look at it. What are scientists doing? They are essentially telling you stuff based off stuff that they read. Okay, cool. Where did they read that? They read it at school. Okay, how old are these books? These books are this old. So it's just essentially regurgitated information that's been more so like opinionated, and the fact that I'm a scientist says that it's true. And that's not what I care about. You can tell me all you want about NoFap as a scientist. I will always stand behind it, telling you that, yeah, it has benefits to it. If it's placebo effect, who cares? It works. Placebo effect has actually healed people from terrible diseases. Who cares? It works. So that's my whole stance. I mean, I don't need the scientific backing, because we have to do it ourselves. In the years to come, it'll definitely evolve to that, where we have science kind of backing it up. But yeah, for now, we got to do what we have to do.
Totally agree with you, man. I've briefly mentioned this sort of thing on my channel, but nothing too in depth. But yeah, I totally get you. Like, if it's if it's a placebo, who gives a shit? So far, we aren't aware, or there's been no evidence that pursuing NoFap kills people or harms anyone else. So really, right. I don't see any potential downside. All I see is potential upside. So why would you not try it? Especially, I don't know, if you just, like, for me, I was feeling down for like 4 years straight, and I tried everything, man. Like, fish oil tablets. I tried exercise. I tried psyching myself out. I tried meditation, man. Like, just fucking everything from A to Z. And NoFap is the one thing that, like, stayed with me and really elevated me to the next level. And I sustained that, and I still sustain it today. And it's been like half a year now. So it's been like a long-term thing, and it just never stops. So I can totally relate with you there.
Yeah, dude. I am all behind you on that. And I mean, who knows? We're the first generation to try it out. So maybe we'll all die by the time we're 40 years old because, some random disease. Our brain actually ends up needing pornography to survive. Who knows? But, it works for now. And that's, but if we'd all died, okay, cool. Now we can say that we left a legacy behind. We've taught people, no, pornography is good for you. So as long as we're paying it forward in some way, that's all I care about.
Yeah, wow. No, I love it. Love it. Never thought about looking at that angle. That's awesome. Awesome. So, yeah, sort of on that, there's a common counter argument that goes, isn't masturbation natural and healthy? Like, shouldn't we do it every once in a while, especially for guys that have high libido? What's your view on that?
That's a good question. I don't know. Again, that comes back to the whole scientists and studies telling you. And actually, if you think about it, I've actually read this, unless there's been some new study, there's actually no study that specifically says that it's healthy for you. There are studies that imply it, but there's no conclusive argument that says, yes, you need this to be healthy. So I don't know. The one question I've always struggled with is how to tell this to people with high libidos and to teenage boys, because that seems to be pretty hard. Like incredibly hard. And I don't know enough to say like, oh, it's good for teenage boys to start doing NoFap. My whole take on it is, okay, you got high libido, then just turn off pornography and then, do it yourself without the external stimuli. That's the safest way to go. Like regardless if you've got a high libido or not, you don't need porn to get off. Through sex, you can do it through yourself. The whole problem to me still is pornography and the effects that pornography has on the brain more than it is masturbation and orgasm. But that's, again, I can argue both sides. I can talk about how orgasm is detrimental. It's harmful in so many ways. I mean, if we're getting all spiritual and all that other stuff, yeah, it's draining your life force. So I would part of me says that it's healthy to not orgasm. And then the other part of me could argue that, okay, some people might need to get off. But again, I'm not qualified to answer that type of question. That's just my personal opinion.
Sure thing. And I'm exactly the same. I don't feel qualified either. It's just a fun sort of question to toss around, and just adding my 2 cents here as well. I think porn's the real demon. I think that's the real artificial killer. Just nothing, it's really only come into existence in the past 10 years or so, like online porn that loads extremely fast, where you want it, when you want it. You can be by yourself. No one else will know. Like, it's not like the 1980s or whatever, where you go down to the store and you're embarrassed because you got to pick up a porn mag and you pay for it and shit like that. It's just not like that anymore. You can just get it like right now in 5 seconds, bang. I can have like some extreme hardcore, like crazy shit you've never seen that you wouldn't have seen 20 years ago. Just fucking going ape shit. So I think, yeah, and just based on my own research and experience and my own thoughts and opinions, whatever, porn's a real demon here. In terms of masturbation, I've actually continued to abstain from that. I haven't masturbated for like half a year now, same as the pornography. And if I did it once, now that I've successfully rebooted, like done the whole 90-day reset thing, I think if I had a masty sesh now without the pornography, I don't think that would kill me at all. I don't think it would be bad. But I'm just me personally, like, I think this comes down to you, right? I'm the kind of guy that I don't like to break a streak. I like to like stick with things. So like I'm on a vegetarian diet right now also. Like, sure, I could have a bit of bacon and it won't kill me and it's like not the end of the world, but I'm just the kind of guy that likes to commit to something, and if there's no real big implications, then I may as well just see it through. So I don't really feel the need to or desire to go and have a session. I mean, there's sex, right? I mean, that's a whole nother topic, but you can get your sexual release through sex, and part of that might be learning how to, maybe it's time to learn to interact with girls if you're not getting that sexual release through girls, and learn how to interact with them and all that sort of thing. So that's just my view on the subject. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, no, I think that it can be used to, it should be used to push you in a way. because this whole like buildup of energy, yeah, that's energy that you should be using towards life. There's no surprise as to why people are super motivated when they're on NoFap, why they're performing well physically in relationships, is because you've got all this gung-ho momentum, both physical, both metaphysical, both conscious, both subconscious. It's helping you. So, and even with the whole sex thing, I mean, tried several times, not several times, but one time, I'm sorry, several times with one person, the whole carezza. So not busting, not orgasming. And again, it felt good. It's like, I think we need to essentially reprogram ourselves to feel that it's okay to not orgasm. Because the only thing a guy wants to do typically when he's having sex is bust that sweet nut. That's all he wants to do. But we don't have to. And I know that through personal experience. Sometimes I enjoy the feeling of not getting off. It feels better to me to know that I'm pleasing my partner and I'm withholding and I'm maintaining my strength and my vitality all the while. So I don't know. Every side can be argued, but I think the one thing that can't be argued is even porn, no porn, masturbation, no masturbation. When you orgasm, it drains you. And the thing is, there are so many things that can't be measured and can't be studied. We can't. Well, I guess we could study, but we can't study on a metaphysical level what an orgasm does to you. We can kind of subjectively talk about it, like, oh, I feel this way. Oh, you can hear some guru, some spiritual guru talk about how it destroys some chakra, or how it, I don't know, destroys a vibrational energy force field that surrounds you. Who knows? But we can't argue the fact that, yeah, an orgasm still, and I agree with what you're saying there. It's still a very big question mark around a lot of that stuff, simply because we can't study it, like I was saying.
Definitely. I don't know if you've read the book, Seth, but in Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, there is a chapter on the mystery of sex transmutation, I believe it's called. And I never understood it when I read it 2 years ago, but now I get what he's saying, especially after pursuing this NoFap journey. And it is basically the idea that, these big ass entrepreneurs, whenever they had feminine energy, like in the room with them, or they had, like a relationship, a partner they were deeply in love with and very intimate with, they were able to sort of transmute that energy into their life and business, and it came out as a form of energy that they could expend on other things. And I totally get that now. Like, it's just given me a bunch of vitality that I can now put into, to my business, my YouTube channel, and this podcast and everything, man. I'm just so much more motivated, and that might be based on Napoleon's principle of sex transmutation. So an interesting read for the listeners listening in if you haven't read Think and Grow Rich. Another thing, when you mentioned carezza, I thought, holy shit, there's another person that knows about this. Because, man, like, I don't think this is a big thing right now. Some guy dropped a comment on my YouTube channel, and he said, hey, have you heard of the carezza method? And, because I'm super curious and all, I went to suss it out, and there's hardly anything on it. Like, there's just a few books on goodreads.com, a few ratings, but there just hasn't been anything on it. So I'm just wondering, how the hell did you... Okay, so what is the carezza method for people who don't know, and how did you find out about it?
Okay, I will say I'm super understanding of this. I will just put it in layman's term. It's, to me, having intercourse, having sex without finishing. Both sides, the woman and the man, they don't finish. And it makes for, to me, better lovemaking sessions. So essentially, think of having sex, but never losing that honeymoon phase that you get during sex. So when you're having sex and you're experiencing that high, it just never goes away, and you can stop it and continue on your own terms. So you can have sex 4 or 5 times a day, and you'll still get that high from one another. That's, to me, what true lovemaking is. Because typically when a male finishes, what does he want to do? He wants to turn his back And how does it affect the female? It affects her in a negative way. So charisma to me is essentially maintaining the love, maintaining the passion, not only in that sex session, but within your relationship as a whole. Because, and I'm branching off here, so this may or may not have anything to do with charisma. This is just personal subjective experience. But most women that I've dated, I'll get tired of them after we have sex, after I orgasm with sex. I will, and maybe other guys are the same, but to a certain degree, I will be done. I'm like, oh, well, this is what it led up to, and now we're done. And it's only after orgasms that I feel that. I feel like I want to curl up in a ball. I don't want to talk. I don't want to cuddle. And that to me affects the totality of the relationship, not just in that one moment, but the whole relationship. I experimented one time on a girl, this was a few years back, on a girl that I was engaged in sexually, but I wasn't really like infatuated with her. She was very into me and she wanted the relationship to be an actual relationship, whereas I was more physical. So I made it a point to not orgasm when I was with her. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, I couldn't get enough of her. I truly could not get enough of her. I wanted to hang out with her all the time. I wanted to see her. I was interested in everything she was saying. I wanted to spend as much time with her as possible. It was just like magic. And then I busted the nut and all that went away. All of it went away. I for about a week and a half, I was just withholding and seeing, could this make me feel any different about this woman? And it did. So this is definitely off the deep end. I cannot say that this is factual. Personal experience. It helps maintain the love for that woman for the entire relationship. That's my personal understanding of charisma. So I may have gone off, like I said, the deep end here, but I think it's very, very powerful stuff. It is extremely hard to master, and you have to be very disciplined. But that's where talking to your partner about it comes in. My last relationship, she was open to the idea, and so she's like, all right, I don't want you to come. I'm like, okay, that sucks, but I understand. And when you have that woman who's understanding, I think that goes a long way. So talking to your partner about NoFap and about charisma I think it's like super necessary. If she's going to understand you, because I think most girls these days are hardwired to. Actually, I know this now, personal experience. They get offended if you don't come. Like they get offended if you don't. And I'm like, yo, it's nothing personal. I just don't want to. It's not that you're not attractive. I've now started to understand that women now deem how attractive they are to their partner based on how fast they can make him orgasm. That has been trial and error, personal Seth studies, where it's been verbalized to me on several different occasions. So that road, I think communicating that is extremely important so that you don't hurt your spouse or your significant other. So
okay.
I went off on a tangent there. But.
Yeah, I love the deep end, man. That's what this podcast is all about. Yeah, we don't hold back here. So no pun intended. What was I going to say? Yeah, right. So I'm curious, guy. Like I came out of a 3-year relationship earlier this year, and all is well now. But obviously, I haven't had much experience in the dating scene and hooking up with girls. It's something I'm looking forward to. Not quite ready at the moment, but eventually later this year maybe. So I have some questions. I'm not exactly the most experienced guy in this field. I do have some, but not a lot. So I'm curious, like just based on what you said, like how this new standard is for girls to try and make their dude, come as fast as possible. It's like a representation of how well they're pleasing them or whatever. Just to flip the coin, in my mind, because I haven't had a lot of experience in this area, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be the other way around where, the girl would rather be pleased for longer, so she would want you to come later, so she'd have more time with you? Because otherwise, if it's done in like 5 or 10 minutes, wouldn't she be disappointed?
Right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. The girls who really, 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 really like you, that's where you're going to run into that. Okay, so just look at sex. Sex is just an act between two people. If you treat it as such, then yes, the man only wants to orgasm and the woman only wants to orgasm as well. But the women who truly, genuinely care about you and the relationship. And those women are out there. They do exist. Because I mean, there have been times where I'll come in, I don't know, under a minute, and I'll apologize, although I'm not apologizing, like, actually, I'm just kind of saying, oh man, I'm sorry that, like, no, it's fine. I liked it. And they, whether she's lying to me or not, I'll never know. But regardless, the point they always stress is that it turns them on knowing that they were able to get you off, or that they want to know that they have the capability of doing that. But if this is just some like one night stand or some just a temporary fling, relationship is built solely off of sexual stimulation, then I would venture to say that you're right. That yes, a woman would be dissatisfied. She would be upset. So that's where I think I draw the line.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's something really interesting. I'm glad we can talk about this stuff, and I think it's becoming a bit more open here in like 2017. 10, 20 years ago, maybe people weren't as open about this stuff, but, it's an important thing. And I've got a lot of men listening in my podcast, not to exclude you girls listening right now, but, a lot of my audience are men. So, not everyone has like a best friend or a father figure to look up to who can talk about this shit. But, I mean, it's like biology. It's real. Everyone, eventually has their first time, their first fling or whatever, and gets into girls and sex. So it's really nice to talk about this stuff. So another thing I'm curious about is, if you're open to talking about it, you seem pretty open, is your first time having a proper fling with the girl in the bedroom. I'm just wondering how that came about, because there are a lot of, guys, maybe they're, I don't know, 16, 17, 18, 19, and they haven't had their first fling, and they feel bad. They lack confidence, and they're like, oh man, I haven't had sex yet, and because there's sort of that social pressure, and so they feel bad, and they're just not good with women. So I'm just wondering what your story is in terms of how you had your first fling or whatever, and what sort of advice, if you have any, for guys that are in that similar position.
When you say fling, are you talking about sex with a girlfriend, or you mean a fling as in like a quick one night stand or something like that?
Ultimately, I just mean sex. So that could be a one-night stand, or it could be a relationship, whatever.
Okay. Well, the first time I had sex was after high school. So I was a late bloomer in that sense. The girl I told you about in the very beginning, the one who I ended up breaking up with, and that was pretty healthy, honestly. That was just a normal relationship that I kind of developed. We liked each other. So in ninth grade, I was 14. We both really liked each other. Years to finally even date, and that was after high school, because she started dating some guy in high school. I started dating some girl, and then it was flip-flopping. I would be single, she'd be taken, or then I'd be taken, she was single. So that kind of developed over time. And I guess I wasn't really stressed about not having sex between my high school years. Because I know I had sexual experiences, and I guess I can answer this in a few different ways, because I'm talking about like first time. That's like high school, and I'm sorry, right after high school. That was pretty young. But let's talk about NoFap. I don't think I've ever told anyone this, and I don't want to attribute this to NoFap. It's kind of weird, but I'll tell you a couple instances. The first night I'd ever started NoFap, like literally the first night, I'd read about the energy. I read about like everything that's going to happen, with women and all this stuff. I kid you not. And this is the part where I might lose a lot of people, because they might not believe in this metaphysical. When I say metaphysical, I don't mean like spiritual. I just mean shit that we can't see, that's happening on a deeper level, like subconscious, subliminal, energetic. The first night I'd ever started NoFap, not even lying, I get a knock on my door. And then it ended up being a girl that I was trying to get with sexually for like 3 months, who just wouldn't give it up. And I'm not even joking. She knocked on my door, and I was not expecting her to come there. I had no idea she was coming there. I just heard like a little, I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it's her. And I'm like, if that's not the biggest testament to like NoFap I've ever seen, that's a very rare circumstance. I understand that, but that's how I'll attribute it. And then the last one I'll share for the older people is, I guess, my first one night stand. That was in Hollywood. when I was like 25, 26. And I almost affirmed it. I kind of affirmed it. I was getting ready to go out. I had never had a one night stand before. I was so sick of all these other guys having one night stands. I'm like, man, I just want to do it. Like, just come on, give me one night stand. So that one night I ended up just affirming, like, okay, I'm going to have a one night stand. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then I let it go. I forgot about it. I'm just like, you know what? Forget it. I'm not going to try so hard like we were talking about earlier. I'm just going to submit myself to the experience. And it was at a club, honestly. I was out dancing and I was very high energy. When guys are trying to pursue a woman, whether it be in a club or whether it be at school, they're low energy because they're caught up in their head. They're caught up in their thinking. Can't do anything but think about, failure or insecurity or shyness. And that one night I turned it off and I committed myself to just having a really, really good time. And just like everything with when it comes time to success, it just happened when I wasn't expecting it. We started dancing, hit it off. And she was like, I don't know, the club kind of ended and we were like, yeah, let's keep hanging out. And it just happened so naturally. And the difference between that and all the other times before is that I wasn't trying so hard. I'm actually planning on doing a video about this, but there's a clear difference, between putting forth effort and trying. Trying is a very bad type of thing to do. It pushes the things that you want away from you, because trying usually comes from a place of discontent, of despair, of desperation, and trying is a negative energy within itself. Even if what you're trying to do is something good, like I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to, do this, I want to do that. When you're trying, if it's not coming from a place of purity, and again, we're talking about women still, then all you're going to do is just keep pushing away. It's only when you relax yourself, relax your standards, and you give in to the experience. Turn off. It's so hard to explain this, but it's like having a goal. I think you've heard law of attraction. I'm pretty sure, right? Not the first thing, but one of the most important things they tell you to do is let go. That I remember distinctly when I first heard about The Secret and I was telling someone about it. This older lady at my gym that I was working at, she was like, oh, it's so amazing, but you need to learn how to master letting go. That's the hardest part. And it really was. When it comes time to guys trying to get girls, they can't let it go. All they want is to put it in. And I think it's that you got to find that balance. So whether you're in high school, whether you're in college, whether you're 30-year-old, never had sex before, it's just a matter of non-resistance. And that comes from a place of giving yourself to your experience. I will say this one time because I don't want to lose people again, but it's what I told you earlier, Brandon. There is an article. All you got to do is type in on Google, the law of paradoxical intent. I think there's only one article on it, and it's the best article I've read. And that's truly what transformed my success with women. It got me to realize that my negativity, my desperation was hurting me more than helping me. And that these women could pick up on that. You ever have a girl that you're talking to, you're so excited about, and then she just disappears out of nowhere. She stops texting you. That happened to me so many times. It was routine. And then I read this article, and then it's not even a long article. It just transformed me, and it transformed my success, and it taught me to stop trying and to give myself to the moment. So that one night stand night, I was giving myself to the moment. I was just in it. Last thing I'll say about trying hard with women. I'll never forget. I was at a club with my friend, and this is around the time I was trying to learn how to let go and how to stop trying. And he said, "Dude, you are clearly trying not to try." So it's like you're trying not to try. That's worse than trying in the first place. So it's like, how do you find that balance? And that, I think, is one of the most beautiful journeys that anyone will ever walk in his or her life, is learning to try to not try, learning how to not try to, and learning to accept everything into their life. I will say that if there's one quality about myself that I truly love, which has helped me manifest a lot of things, like a lot, it is learning to stop giving a fuck and learning to stop trying so hard. So women will come to you almost instantly when you just stop trying.
Wow, yeah, you're good, man. Like, I'm having a few little revelations here. I've never heard it so clear from someone, or someone emphasize this concept of trying so much. So this is really a first for me, and maybe a first for some listeners listening in. So I'm definitely going to be hitting up that law of paradoxical intent after this podcast, no question. But just to add some spice here, based on the revelations and connections I've been making in my head, I do know for one thing, got a few things to say here. For one thing, I'm into lucid dreaming. Don't know if you've ever stumbled across it, but I've been a long time lucid dreamer, and it's what got me into this self-development journey. And when people like ask me how to lucid dream, and you know, the most common question newbies, or not question, the most common mistake newbies make in the lucid dreaming world is they try too hard. That's simply all it is. Because what you really want to do is sort of program your subconscious throughout the day, and just have a subtle intent to have a lucid dream. But if you try too hard, then your mind's full of shit. It's full of anxiety, and you just don't give yourself a break to just sink into it, sort of thing. Yeah, it might sound a bit woo-woo, a bit spiritual, but whatever. Like it's legit. People that try hard never fucking get it. They try it for years and they don't do it. The people that give less fucks, have a subtle intent, nothing more, they end up doing it. And that's how I did it too. So that's just some parallels I can draw with lucid dreaming, and I'm sure that can be applied to other things like girls and life in general, dude. Another thing, there's this book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and I believe it was published either last year or this year. It's a very recent book. And I just finished reading it, and yeah, like, this guy goes against all conventional self-help books, and one of the chapters is called Stop Trying, I believe. And that's pretty much what we've touched on, but your perspective is slightly different, so it's nice to sort of compare. So that's definitely a book worth reading. I don't know if you've read it, man, but that's definitely a book worth reading too. I think you'll really resonate with it. We're all trying so hard, getting fucking stuck in our heads. And that's what I wanted to say too. I haven't talked to girls lots, but when I do, like, I personally, I've got no problem approaching girls. I've got no problem talking with them like a lot of guys do. But the thing is, as soon as I have an intention about, you know, going to bed with this girl, or I feel the attraction and then I focus on nothing but that attraction. Oh my God, this girl's, I don't know, so hot or whatever. And, you know, maybe I'll sleep with her. As soon as I get into that line of thinking, I'm just gone. Like, I don't know what the fuck to say. But as soon as there's just none of those intentions, and I just back off the accelerator and just treat them like a friend, it's just easy as fuck. They're just like another human, and I don't care what people think of me. So it just becomes this, it just flows so nicely, and we have a good time. That's my experience with girls, so I can sort of relate with you there.
Yeah, it's true to women, and it's true to everything in life. Again, putting forth effort and then trying are two different things. So I don't think you need to sit down and do nothing. However, like letting go, moving forward, and still wanting that thing all at the same time is a hard thing to accomplish. But once it is accomplished or mastered, which I don't think anyone will ever fully master it, but it's a beautiful thing. And you're right. Even with your example about lucid dreaming, when you're trying to do it, it doesn't work. But that one time you're just kind of sleeping and you forget about it. Oh, wow, here you are doing it. So I'm fully on board with you there.
For sure. So sort of getting back onto NoFap now, a lot of people struggle with this, even girls too. Like, it's not just a man thing, although it's primarily dominated by men. But, you know, there's females too. And, you know, I run a little no PMO group. PMO means porn, masturbation, orgasm, by the way, people, just for those who don't know. But a common question that always comes up, well, not a question, but challenges, is that, you know, people find it fucking hard. Like, they relapse. So they break their streak after 3 days. Like, some people just can't last that long. So I'm just wondering, what were your biggest challenges on your NoFap journey, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, and the thing is, what people need to understand is I'm not perfect. Like, there are times, and I've said this before, there are times where I'll relapse and it's like, oh shit, it happens because I'm not an imperfect person. However, and I'm gonna address your question in a second. What I do like to tell myself is, okay, there was once a time in life where I couldn't not masturbate to pornography 3 times a day. I had to do it 3 times a day. And so now, if my relapses are, you know, once a month, I'm like, that's way better. Like, I congratulate myself on that, because it's like, I can't expect perfection all the time, and I have to accept the fact that I am a human being. So I think people should be a little more forgiving of themselves. Even if you relapse every 3 days, is 3 days still better than what it was? If so, you're making progress. That's all I care about, as long as you don't fall back into that vicious cycle. For me, I mean, I think my experiences were the same for everyone else. Just overcoming the urges and figuring out how to defeat the triggers. I think that's one that kind of gets overlooked. And I'm going to end up doing a video on this eventually. There are a lot of triggers in the world that you probably don't really realize, and that's holding you back. So my biggest issue coming with pornography, that came out really wrong. My biggest issues with abstaining from pornography, were trying to detect the triggers and why do I keep relapsing. And I have now found what I feel to be the answer, which is, I remember I read an article about television and how watching TV essentially induces beta waves in the brain. This is a gold mine for advertisers, because when your mind is in that beta wave state, you're very suggestible. That's why advertisers exist now. That's why they're so prominent on TV, on advertisements, on Instagram, everywhere, is because these things that we engage in, television, Netflix, mindlessly browsing YouTube or Instagram or whatever, that induces the beta waves in the brain. That puts you in a very beta state, and that makes you extremely suggestible. So I started thinking to myself, if that's the case, then there is just doing anything that's really not productive in the first place. Browsing social media, watching Netflix, that puts you in this very suggestible state. And most people actually, I don't think, realize that. Social media being probably one of the biggest culprits. You wouldn't think that swiping on Instagram is inducing this beta state in the brain. But to my own personal experience, I believe that it is. And for me, the hardest part was figuring out why do I keep relapsing? Why do I keep experiencing, faults here and there? And the other hardest part of it I would say is just myself, the combating yourself and the urges that, your conscious wants you to fall victim to, because, you start reasoning with yourself consciously. That's the hardest thing for me to overcome, is that voice that says, oh, it's fine. You've gone, a month, you're good. Just go for it. It's not going to hurt you. That I think is probably one of the top challenges that I still face to this day, is that voice of reasoning saying, oh yeah, you're good, just go for it. But it's something that I enjoy that it's there, because it shows me that there's still something within myself that I need to work on, something that I need to change. And I like anything that puts me in that position to where I'm faced with myself. I watched a great interview yesterday by David Goggins or something like that. Oh, David Goggins is his name. His new fanboy. I mean, this guy is just a disciplined machine. I'm not going to explain anything about him, but I encourage everyone to check out David Goggins. And he said something like, you can lie to everyone else in the world, but you can't lie to the person in the mirror. And that rang so true. I can talk a talk, I can walk a walk, but the only person I can't get away from is going to be myself. And if there is something within me that needs to be changed, and I appreciate that for existing in the first place. I appreciate my addiction to pornography. I think I hit an all-time low in my life when I was 25 or 26. I started the NoFap journey at 26. I reached an all-time low, but I'm so thankful for that, because without that low, I wouldn't have been able to achieve what I've achieved thus far in life. And I won't be able to achieve what I'm still going to achieve. in life. So it can be seen from two different sides. It can be a challenge. It can be something that's too hard to overcome, no pun intended, but also it can be something that pushes you to do better for yourself. So I know I've kind of gone in circles on this and all your other questions, but yeah, the hardest thing I would say is just the voice of reason, that kind of tells you, just do it one time. Just do it one time. That's probably what it is for me.
Sure. So right now, I guess we've kind of briefly covered it, but I'll ask it anyway. What's your relationship with pornography right now? Like, when I say porn, like, what do you think? Or I'm just wondering, what your relationship with is it?
So what really messed me up, and I don't know if I should say this, is I don't want to lead someone down the wrong road. But I'll say it anyways, because this is what it's saying everything. So, Gary from yourbrainonborn.com.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing an interview once, and someone asked him, is it okay for people to watch porn? And like, is it okay that guys watch porn? And he didn't just say, no, it's not. What he said was, well, it depends on the type of porn. And that's my relationship with pornography, is that it depends on the type of pornography. I will say that I support his claim, but I don't know enough to talk about it, because I don't know. Even when I was at my worst, I was never looking at like dirty, disgusting, weird shit. I just wasn't. My stuff was very, very elementary compared to like what was out there. And I want to say that could be why I guess I wasn't so fucked up. You got guys who are out there losing their hair, guys who just can't function at all. And I'm like, I wonder, I just took that one sentence he said and I put the pieces together. I'm like, I wonder if that's what it was. Because I never fell off to the deep end to where I was doing some like really, really weird shit. But I noticed that the weirder you get, the more fucked up the guy ends up becoming. So my relationship to pornography, I don't agree with it. And I don't agree with it, period. But I would still say that what Gary said could be true, that it could just depend. I don't know. It's a very, very murky gray area. And if anything, I don't want to lead anyone down that road. I would just say altogether, it's a bad thing. Because it doesn't matter if you start looking at one type of porn, you're still looking at pornography and it's still affecting the brain. And more importantly, it could send you down the wrong path anyways. You know what I'm saying? So I think ultimately it just needs to be stayed away from altogether. It's not up to you, the individual, to decide what's good or what's bad for you, because we're not neuroscientists. We don't know what Gary knows. We don't know what neuroscientists know. So altogether, I just say stay away from it. Part of me still wants to say, like, could you every once in a while? That's where I get gray area.
Yeah.
So who knows? Someone else should probably do this experiment.
Yeah, sure thing, man. I'm reaching out to every person that I know of in my head that might have some value to add to this conversation. So, I've tried reaching out to Gary to see if I can get him on the podcast. I've reached out to the NoFap founders. I haven't got a response from any of them yet, but we're working on it. I've got some more people in mind that I'm reaching out to, so hopefully we can clear some of this up. And I don't think we'll ever come across a definitive answer, because the world's so subjective in everyone's eyes, right? I don't think there's a black and white answer, but we can still add some soup to the mix.
Exactly.
Okay, so do you feel like there's anything else you want to mention on the subject of pornography and sex before we move on to the fun questions?
Not really. I mean, I don't know. I can talk about NoFap forever. I mean, there are just so many facets of NoFap to be discussed, but I would just say enjoy the journey. Just like I said earlier, how I enjoyed not knowing where I'm going to go with life and still don't know. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the relapses. Enjoy the fact that you finally found something that is here to push you, here to change you, and here to challenge you. Because I feel like not enough people introduce enough challenge into their life, and that's what breeds complacency. And when you're complacent, then nothing really changes in life. NoFap, whether I fail, whether I succeed, I can say that it's pushed me to become a greater man than I've ever been pushed in my entire life. So celebrate NoFap. Celebrate your relapses. Celebrate all of it. It's the whole experience is something worth celebrating. Celebrate the fact that you are going to be a better man, no matter what. Just the mere fact that you are aware of this being a problem and you're doing something about it has already set you apart. It's already put you in the top 10%, maybe even less, of all the males out there who are slaves to this addiction. Celebrate it. That's it.
Sure thing. Love it, man. All right, cool. So we'll move on to, probably shouldn't call them the fun questions, because to me, every question I ask is fun. But that's just my subjective viewpoint, because I love asking questions. So I guess I should call these the Tim Ferriss questions, because he's the one I credit with coming up with, and he openly shared this on his blog to use them in podcast, because often you get responses from guests like yourself who deliver awesome answers. Because I think it was Tony Robbins who said, the value of the answer is equivalent to the value of the question, or some shit like that. So let's go ahead. The first one is, when you think of the word successful, who's the first person that comes to mind and why?
People that everyone would know, or people that I know?
Just,
Yeah. My buddy Ryan. So Ryan, I've actually literally just did a video and I explained who Ryan was. But the thing about Ryan is he is extremely successful, but he does not give a shit about personal development. That's what I love about him. He's about 31. If you're talking financial success only, because I don't necessarily think that success means financial gains, but for a lot of people it does. So speaking of Ryan's financial success, I mean, this guy probably pulls in $500,000 a year. Idea to start a wedding video company, and he's taken action towards making it happen. Ryan's story, I'll sum it up really fast, is essentially he started off, we were roommates in 2010, and he was working at a sandwich shop. He just got out of he just got out of college. He was making like $7 an hour, and he was making sandwiches. Just decided one day, he's watching a wedding video online, and he pulls me into the room. He says, "Look, I think I can do this, but I think I can do it better." And yeah, he took action. This is Ryan. He takes action on everything. He does not hesitate. This dude immediately took out a loan for 15 to 20 grand.
Fuck.
I'm not even joking. I'm there. I mean, and you got to understand, he had negative money. He went to Notre Dame, which is a very expensive private school in Maryland. This dude went and took this loan on top of the loans he already had, and he bought all this camera equipment, and I'm watching the living room just fill up with all this camera gear, and within a year this guy just disappears. He took off to end up becoming one of the best wedding videographers in the United States, top 5. And from then he's just continued to take more and more actions. The thing with Ryan is he does not hesitate. He will do it, and he will do it all the way until it is complete. If you ask him, that's all he'll say. He said, "I just take action." He takes risks. He doesn't have that fear factor that a lot of people have. He just takes risks. And it's thanks to Ryan that I'm in the position that I'm in now, making the type of money that I make, all because of this guy. So first person I think of success is my buddy Ryan. He's a character. Very interesting guy.
And I think you said he doesn't really give a shit about self-development. Is that right?
Exactly. Again, this is that whole putting forth effort but not trying. I think even by my own nature, my own very definition of trying to do something better for myself, I think that's already hurting me. Like, if you maybe heard people say something about affirmations, like if you tell yourself I'm confident, you're hurting yourself because you're telling yourself that you're not confident, so that you have to tell yourself that you are confident. You know what I'm saying? So I'm having revelations as I'm saying this. I'm just like, yo, turn it off and just take actions. Because Ryan, literally, he is not, like, I kid you not, he does not give a shit. He just doesn't question it. He doesn't hesitate. He just does things, and it always works out. Doesn't mean that he's perfect, but it's worked out, and he has created. Oh gosh, this guy, he's killing it. He got two Audis, got a nice house, got a beach house. He's got all these things. And I don't care about material stuff, but if you're talking in terms of just people that are just doing shit, all it comes down to, he doesn't try, he just does. And that's it.
So do you sort of see him like a mentor?
Not even, because he wouldn't even care to mentor anyone. That's the thing. You watch him and you see like, okay, he's doing it, so it must be okay to do. If you believe, I think he just believes in himself enough. He's very cocky, not in a negative way. When I say he's cocky, I mean he's cocky to the point to where he knows that if he does something, it's going to work. That's cocky, I'm saying, in terms of a belief about himself. So he knows that whatever he does in his mind is going to work. And I think that's a quality that people should have. I don't say I look up to him because he's not teaching me anything. I look up to him because he's afforded me a possibility, an opportunity to do what I love to do for a living while making great money. That's how I look up to him. But not even a mentor. He's just a guy that just takes action all the time.
Do you think he would take action on accepting an invitation on my podcast?
Probably not. I've been trying to get him on my channel. I've been trying to get him on. So he's I don't know. He doesn't have social media. I mean, he's got Facebook and all that other stuff, but he does not spend time on that stuff. He's just, I think he's an anomaly, because business and money and making money for him is like playing Monopoly or playing chess. It's a game for him. We actually had dinner a couple nights ago, and he said something along the lines of trying to see how much money I can get out of people is a game for me. It's a challenge. A lot for his wedding video services, and the company, I'm working for a subsidiary that he's cultivated. We charge a lot of money, and we get away with it. And that's what I'm learning from Ryan. If you're good at something, you put your price, and people will pay for it. When I tell people like that we charge $4,700, like close to $5,000 per wedding video, they like, and I do it too. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe people are actually buying it. But he knows his worth, he knows his value, and he takes action. That it's just so rare. So I hope that one day I can even get him on my channel, show his face, and to talk about stuff like this. But yeah, man, just he's got that Nike mentality just ingrained in his head. He just does not stop.
Sounds like a really interesting guy to have dinner with. Anyway, so we'll move on to the next one. What is something you believe that other people think is insane?
I guess NoFap. That's probably like it used to be for a while. Like, oh, what, you don't masturbate? Like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
One thing I believe. Here's one. Simply put, that you create your own reality with your thoughts. And that can be expanded to say that your thoughts produce actions, and then your actions create your reality. People don't believe that they're in control of their life. And simply put, I believe that is one of the most crazy things that I believe that most people reject in the outcome of their life, or that it's their thinking that is causing them to do certain things, and those actions are thus materializing into reality. Or the lack of action taking is returning you nothing. So yeah, I just think that your thoughts turn into your reality is probably one of the most crazy things that people have called me out for, but I still stand behind it 100%.
Yeah, man. You'll find a lot of people that are really fulfilled with their lives, or they're on, this big success journey, or people that are perceived as a success. They know this. Like, I think there's a ton of books on it. It's all in the success literature. Like, I think there's a book called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And there's a lot of books on stoicism by Ryan Holiday that goes into this sort of mindset that you do have a large degree of control simply through your own thoughts. So that's kind of a whole nother podcast and conversation, but we'll leave it there. Yeah. It's just intriguing stuff. So the next question is, Seth, what are the books you've given most as a gift? And if you haven't gifted them, then, what is your favorite book?
I got two answers on that one. people have recently asked me what are the best books that I can recommend. I used to be a spokesperson, essentially. You would think I'm a spokesperson for Anthony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. And most people would expect that to be my answer. However, Anthony Robbins produced a very little well-known audio series called Get the Edge. To retract his statement by saying that I listen to a lot of audiobooks, more than I actually physically read. I'm an audiobook junkie, so I will read audiobooks or listen to audiobooks all the time. And he has this one called Get the Edge, and it is a 7-day that you listen to, and he tells you, instructs you to do certain things. Anthony Robbins is very big on just taking action. So instead of reading a book by Tim Ferriss, put his practices to use immediately, not in 20 minutes, not after you're done listening to this chapter. Put it to use now. And in that audiobook, Get the Edge, he does a very good job at getting you to do it now. So getting up early and creating your hour of power. Getting out for the run now. Doing everything now. And that book was truly transformative for me. It helped me get over. Every time I had a breakup or I would get my heart broken by some girl, I would fall off the deep end. I would be very sad for days, very, very affected. And that was the first time I'd ever gotten over a girl so fast that I truly did not care about her anymore. I didn't care about the fact that she hurt me, that she did this to me. I was over it. And that audiobook, just transformed my entire existence. I attribute a lot of my success to that, or my thinking to that audiobook. And the last one I'll say, which is an actual audiobook, is Earl Nightingale, The Essence of Success. It's about 13 hours of just Earl Nightingale destroying everything you know about everything and filling it back up with positivity, with simple truths, essentially. So those are my two go-tos.
Okay, crazy. Everyone's talking about Unshakable right now, which is Tony Robbins' new book. So you've just shed a large piece of value here about a book that I've never even heard of, and I consider myself a huge book junkie. So, wow, I'll put that on the list. Awesome. Next question. What is your favorite documentary or movie, and why?
First one that came to mind was called, let me see. The guy, his name is An Weiwei. He is a Chinese contemporary artist and an activist. And I'm kind of anti-government, marching on the streets because I don't care about it that much, but I'm anti-government, and I kind of like when people can do things and essentially make the government look foolish. And An Weiwei hated the government. The Chinese government tried to oppress him specifically so hard, and he kept rising above. There was a part in the documentary where, he's a very awesome artist. He comes up with these very extravagant pieces, and a lot of it has to do with fuck you, Chinese government. And there's one part where he was being sued by the government for close to $1 million. And for some reason, no one knows why or how, people got the word that An Weiwei needed money for this lawsuit. He never tweeted it. He never put it on social media. He never did anything. But all of a sudden, people started making paper plane out of dollar bills or Chinese yen, whatever the currency is, and throwing it over his apartment, over to his house. And this dude raised essentially close to $1 million, all because of the people that stood for him, because this man stood up to the government so many times. He fought the government. They put him in jail. They tortured him for 90 days or something stupid like that. And he still persevered and came out with a big fuck you to the government. So I don't know the name. Actually, it's just called An Weiwei. It's his name. It was on Netflix. And it's more than just about government. It's just about being so passionate about something that you will not falter. You'll stay on your course. You'll stay on your path. despite any sort of troubles that come your way. And that's what I think makes An Weiwei stand out so much, is that he went through so much physical and mental abuse and scrutiny from the government, fear every day of his life, being followed by the police every single day, fucking with the police, creating fake decoys of himself to kind of, get the police off course. Anyways, yeah, just a very awesome guy, an awesome documentary that I highly recommend to everybody.
Incredible. Next question is, what purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months?
$100 or less. I'm trying to think. I don't really buy a lot of stuff except camera equipment, which, that's a really hard question to answer, because I truly don't buy shit unless it's for camera gear. And I'm like looking, you have to see my apartment. It's very empty. I don't own a lot of things. I truly don't. It's kind of hilarious. Dude, I have to be very honest. I have not purchased something less than $100 in the last 6 months. I'm not even joking, unless we're talking about clothing, but it hasn't really impacted my life.
Yeah.
I'm very non-spendy.
Okay.
But if I do spend, it's either on traveling, which exceeds $100, or on camera equipment, which exceeds $100. So
okay, so we'll spin the question a bit. I actually like that answer because it's different to what people normally put out there. So I love everything different. So I'm wondering, how about, this is a bit off topic, but whatever, food. Is there specific food? Do you own a food shop that's $100 or less, or any supplements or food you eat/take?
Well, again, you're asking a very weird person. I eat literally the same thing every single day.
You're one of those guys.
Because I know what goes in and I know what goes out.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about, I guess we'll talk about food. I guess in the last 6 months, I bought what's this called? A Ninja blender or something like that. So I can start making fruits and veggie shakes, because I don't eat enough fruits and veggies. So yeah, the Ninja blender, I'll say that was about $100.
Okay.
It's gotten me to start eating more fruits and vegetables, because I hate fruits and vegetables.
Awesome, man. I'm curious. I got to ask, because I did the same thing as you. I went out and got myself one of those NutriBullet blenders that you see on the TV ads. And it's been awesome, man. Like, it's a good way to get all your nutrition and shit. So I'm just wondering, what do you pack in there?
As of late, what I've been doing, if I'm doing vegetable, I'll just do straight up banana, baby spinach, pineapple, and almond milk. If I'm doing fruits, I started going the frozen fruit route. I've heard that frozen fruits actually are better than fresh fruits, because one, they've been preserved for so long, and two, fresh fruits have been traveling around God knows how long and God knows where, that they're only fresh for a certain amount of time. So I've been going the frozen mixed berry route. So it has strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, and then I'll stuff that in the blender with a bunch of orange juice and a banana and call it a day. Keep it very simple.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Similar sort of thing here, except I sort of go a bit overboard on the nutrients. I put I mix like herbs into my my drink. I mix smart drugs into there, a bit of nootropics, and I either put in the flaxseed. I put in, there's a bunch of tabs, and just whip it all up. But I do go the frozen fruit route as well. Like, I'm really lazy. I'm lazier than I should be when it comes to food, because you know what you feel your body really affects your energy and shit. But I live a life of convenience in that regard. So I think when it comes to frozen fruit and even frozen veggies, I buy these little like steam bags and chuck them in the microwave. In 3 minutes, bam, I have like 3 servings of veggies, just because I'm too lazy to cook them properly. But I also read something similar that apparently frozen is actually better for you. Now, we're not health experts or anything, but that's just what I heard somewhere, so it's worth doing your research. But at the end of the day, man, like if you're eating fruit or veggies, whether it's frozen or not, going off topic here, whatever. If you're eating frozen shit, I mean, like, that is 10 times healthier than going to Macca's, right? And that's what a lot of people do. So, when it comes to that organic versus non-organic debate, I don't give a shit. Like, if it's convenient, that's what I value a bit more. As long as it's, reasonably healthy, then then that's just personally what I do, man. Like this whole organic, non-organic debate drives me nuts. You know the health industry. It's one thing contradicts the other. Oh, you're doing this, it's killing you. Oh, you're doing that, it's killing you. But fuck, if you eat frozen veggies or raw veggies, whatever the fuck, you're eating veggies. That is 10 times healthier than what you'd otherwise be eating. So I had to get that off my chest.
No, I support that argument. That actually makes sense. I never thought about it that way. But yeah, I mean, it's better to eat that shit than to eat the other shit, right?
That's right. Anyway.
Yeah, I like that. I like that as my new argument.
For sure. Next, what are your morning rituals?
Morning rituals. I will essentially wake up. I will either go to the gym or take a run, immediately followed by a nice cold shower. And that's kind of where I stopped, actually. I've changed my morning routine several times. It used to be very structured and be very rigid with, reading for this amount of time and doing, meditation for this amount of time. Those things don't feel natural for me all the time. So I've kind of given myself a little bit of leeway. So my morning routine, as long as I get up and get my body moving first thing, and then I take a cold shower, I'm happy with that. That sets the tone, I believe, for the rest of my day, regardless. So yeah, it's pretty basic right now, but it is always changing, honestly. It could probably be something different by tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Cool, man. Now this one generally challenges my guests, so see how you go. I'm going to ask her, what topic would you speak about if you are asked to give a TED Talk on something outside of your main area of expertise?
Something I know absolutely nothing about, but I'm interested in, I guess.
That's okay. Do you know what that thing is?
No, I'm asking, is that what? So something that doesn't involve self-help, but something.
Yeah, so it can be literally anything outside of your main area of expertise. And what most people know you for is, I guess, either your wedding videography or your self-development stuff on YouTube. So anything outside of that, what would you speak about?
Definitely nutrition. Because I believe that nutrition is everything, honestly. Most people find themselves really, really sick from medications. And this, by the way, this is nothing I'm actually versed in. This is just kind of subjective experience. But I think what you put into your body truly affects your entire life. It affects how you feel. It affects what you do, your energy levels. And trust me, I'm a vegan, but I'm still not like super healthy. I've only just now started taking supplements. It's been like 3 years, maybe more, being a vegan, and I'm still just now taking supplements. I think doctors and hospitals and all that shit, they're designed to help you maintain your shitty eating lifestyle. I'll only take I'll only take high blood pressure medication so that I can keep eating shit that makes my blood pressure go up. Same with any other sort of diabetes. I don't know too much about that stuff, but I feel like a lot of the world's health problems are easily solved with what you put in your body. So if I could educate myself on that to the point to where I could talk about it flawlessly, I would do a TED Talks on that and really stress the importance, because I'm gonna sound really shallow here, but I don't believe that anyone has a good excuse to be overweight. I don't believe anyone has a good excuse to be suffering by the time they're like 40, aside from the fact that they can't control what they put into their system, what they put into their mouths. That's not a good enough excuse for me. So yeah, that's one thing I would always like to discuss in depth.
Yeah, wow, I'm tempted to go in depth now. Maybe just for like 5 or 10 minutes or something, because this is something I'm really curious about, and I think this can give everyone a lot of value, including yourself. There is a book called The Story of the Human Body by Daniel Lieberman that goes into this, and there's also a book called How Not to Die by Michael Greger. That's one of my biggest recommendations. And there's a whole, again, it's another episode, but about big pharma and how the health industry doesn't necessarily always have your interest in mine. You know, it's profit driven. Now it might sound a bit like a tinfoil hat junkie saying this, like, the government's against us, the health industry is against us, but I don't know. It's kind of the truth, man. And you did mention veganism, which some vegans, of course, are really out there, like I'm vegan, and then there's other vegans who sort of just on the sidelines that sort of do their own thing, and they're not touting it too much. Because I wouldn't say I'm vegan. I'm vegetarian, that's for sure. Especially after I read that book, How Not to Die by Michael Greger, and learning a bit more about the health industry and my own body and shit like that. I no longer drink dairy milk. I still do. The only thing where I violate the vegan code or whatever is in my supplements, in terms of using, I don't know, animal derived products and clothing. I apparently that's part of veganism, but I do it more for the food and dieting side of things. And I also occasionally I'll just go fuck it and eat a pizza with cheese on it, like a vegetarian pizza with cheese on it. So that's where I'm at now. But man, veganism's a whole nother podcast. But I'm curious if you're open about it. I don't know what your stance is on the matter, but I'm curious as as to how you found out about veganism and why you turned vegan.
I found out through Forks Over Knives, the documentary. I never really responded well to any of the animal slaughtering videos. I've actually never even watched one because I know I wouldn't like it already. But Forks Over Knives was a very informational and statistical and figure-based documentary, which clearly showed, just with numbers and data, that the introduction of meat and animal products into the American culture started increasing health problems, dietary problems, and other big major health risk issues. And that was all it was for me. They were able to show this on a very wide scale, geographically speaking. You know, when China started adopting Western world eating habits, and they used to be one of the healthiest places in the world, very little heart disease problems. It's not a surprise that when they started adopting our ways of eating, that they all of a sudden started getting more and more heart problems. So just seeing that to me was like, cool, I want to live a little bit longer. So let me stop eating the way I'm eating. Let me stop eating food in the way that I'm eating food, meat, processed stuff. Fully avoided processed stuff. But again, it's that argument of this shit's probably better than the other shit. And that's what kind of kicked it off for me. I didn't really need much more after that. I started pescatarian, but that lasted about 2 weeks. And then kind of just went, full vegan. Still not the healthiest because I still think my biggest problem is just not getting enough certain, B vitamins and all that other stuff. But I've changed that recently. So started adopting, just getting more supplementation into my diet.
And what have you been supplementing exactly?
Vitamin D, flaxseed, omega-3s, iodine, and B12, and some calcium.
Is there calcium in that almond milk that you put in your blender?
Yeah, there is. I should double check that right now because I was told that there is calcium in, but I don't know if it's enough.
Yeah.
But also, I fell off of. See, I only drink almond milk when I make the smoothies, and I stopped making the smoothies. So I've had this almond milk sitting here. But let's see, calcium, 25%. So I don't know if that's a lot or not.
Yeah, me either. It's relative to what you need, right? So we don't really know. Because I did the same. I really haven't done enough research. I've been like vegetarian for 90 days and semi-vegan for 60 maybe. So I went up to the doctors the other day and got like a panel. So I think I got the results coming in the mail in terms of what my vitamin levels are and minerals and all that shit. So it'll be interesting to see what goes down. Like I only recently started supplementing B12. I thought, shit, better get on that. But iodine, that's something I haven't really looked into. Is that something vegans normally lack, do they?
Well, they say it is. I read an article kind of just talking about some of the most important vitamins and supplements that need to be taken, and iodine was on that list because it could cause mental retardation, permanent mental retardation if you don't get enough of it. So that was enough for me to say, yeah, I want to get some iodine.
Fuck, man. Yeah, I'm sitting here and thinking, shit, maybe I should take this more seriously.
Yeah. I mean, I made it this long without it, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm retarded now, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I heard. And it's, I mean, take a very little amount. You don't need to take a lot. Very little amount.
Yeah.
1,300 servings from this one little bottle. So
Okay.
couldn't
Yeah.
hurt.
Cool. The more you learn, incredible. I'm glad we had this conversation so I don't become mentally retarded in a year's time. All right.
Man, you never know.
Okay. Cool. So we've got a few more questions here, and then we'll start wrapping up. Let's see. Yeah. So what's the best or most worthwhile investment you've made? Now, this could be an investment of money, time, energy, or any other resource. And how did you decide to make that investment?
Yeah, best investment for me was buying a camera, a high quality camera that doubled as a work camera and also as a camera for YouTube. Because I believe that I don't care what other people think, but I believe putting forth the absolute best quality that you can is key. Doesn't mean that you're going to get more subscribers. No, because you've got more subscribers than me and our quality differs. However, for me, professionally speaking, with weddings, yeah, you can see a difference between a $500 camera and, a multi-$1,000 camera. There's a distinct difference in those things. So I told myself that I'm not going to skimp out. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it and do it all the way. So thanks to that good equipment that I've had, it's helped me in my professional photography and videography life. And I'm always upgrading, buying new cameras. It's become my hobby now. But yeah, even now, I bought a new camera for things, and I use it for YouTube now, and I love it. So I think for me, it's what helped get me through the door, get me started, because I can't imagine having gotten photography gigs with a subpar camera. I got a lot very early on. I struggled to get bookings, but still I was getting bookings because the equipment I was using was able to take really good photos, and clients or potential clients could see that. So I think that's what helped me. I said, you know what, I'm just going to bite the bullet and pay this camera off over the course of a few different gigs. And I think one thing has kind of led to another. It's kind of why I'm where I'm at now.
And what's the model of your camera, out of interest?
The camera I have now is, I've actually got 4. So I've got 3 Canon 5D Mark IIIs, which are a little old now that the Mark IV came out. But my precious baby, is the Canon 1DX Mark II. And it's in itself, physically, it's a beast. And its capabilities are beastly as well. So
it sounds like a weapon.
It very well is.
Cool. So last question here. No, last two, I think. Do you have a quote you live your life by or think about often?
You said, do I have a quote that I live my life by?
Yes.
A specific quote? Well, I guess I could use this one. That's the one that I found early on. From the movie Hellboy, of all choices of movies. Terrible movie. But one of the characters said, the more open-minded you are, the sooner everything else will make sense. And for some reason, that stuck with me. I feel like a lot of people go through their lives being very closed-minded. You just don't really hear any other side of the story. You don't see other sides but your own. And I've traversed this world with a very open mind. Doesn't mean that I will believe everything I hear, but I'll at least listen. And even if I get just a snippet from all that crazy shit you were talking, not you specifically, but the person in my example, if I get a snippet of it that's useful to me, and I'll reject everything else, then that's good. I've learned something new. And I think that just keeping that open mind is kind of what's helped me move forward with little resistance. I don't resist things. I don't resist people. I accept what is. I accept that we are different. And I accept that we're not going to be on the same page all the time with everyone. But it's okay, because I can learn something with that open mind. So, yeah, the more open-minded you are, the sooner everything else will start to make sense. It's my favorite quote.
Fantastic. So for the listeners listening in, Seth, where can we find you on social media?
YouTube, if you type in Seth Alexander or Black White Guy in America, you can find me there. Or Instagram, BWGIA, which is an acronym for Black White Guy in America. That's where I'll be.
All right, fantastic. So what I'm going to do for you, Seth, is leave your links in the description wherever this podcast is distributed, and then that way the listeners listening in right now can find exactly where you are with the click of a mouse. So fantastic. Thanks again, Seth, for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time. I just can't thank my guests enough for their time, because time is such a valuable resource, and I'm sure you've helped some people today. I mean, you've helped me. You've released some bangers of value. So I just want to thank you so much for that.
My pleasure, man. Thank you for inviting, and hopefully we'll keep in touch over the next few years or more.
Head to brandonnankivell.com/subscribe. This is also the best way to interact with me and keep up with what I'm doing. Again, head to brandonnankivell.com/subscribe. As usual, thank you for listening, my friends. I release new episodes every week. Make sure you don't miss one by subscribing. It's super easy and means a lot to me. Go to iTunes, search for The 1% Show, and click subscribe. Once again, I'm your host, Brandon Nankivell, and I'll see you in the next episode.